Have you ever realized that some people don't just want you to fail? They want to destroy you completely? Not everyone who dislikes you is out to ruin you. Some people are just jealous. Some simply don't vibe with you. But then, there's another kind, far more dangerous. They don't just want to see you lose. They want to make sure you never rise again. They won't attack you openly. They'll pretend to support you while secretly working against you. They will set traps, make you doubt yourself, make you feel small, weak, and worthless. And the moment you start destroying yourself, that's when they win. But here's the truth, they don't want you to know. They fear you more than you think. If you were truly weak, they wouldn't have to try so hard. If you were insignificant, they wouldn't waste their time bringing you down. They attack you because they sense your power. Think about the times someone tried to belittle you, sabotage you, or break you. Wasn't it always from someone who, in some way, felt lesser than you? They see something in you that they lack, and instead of elevating themselves, they try to pull you down. Today, we're exposing the truth. We'll talk about how to recognize the people who want to destroy you, and how to make sure they never succeed. Share your experience. Have you ever felt like someone was doing everything they could to pull you down? 1. They fear your strength. There's a reason they come for you. It's not because you're weak. It's not because you're insignificant. It's because you have something they don't, and that terrifies them. Think about it. If you were truly powerless, would they waste their time? Would they scheme behind your back, plant doubt in your mind, or go out of their way to make you feel small? No, they'd ignore you. They'd walk past you without a second thought. But they don't. Instead, they try to undermine you. They mock your ideas in meetings. They downplay your achievements. They make subtle, cutting remarks disguised as jokes. They don't want you to realize your own strength because the moment you do, they lose control. A confident man doesn't need to diminish others. A truly successful person doesn't feel threatened by someone else's growth. Only the insecure try to make others feel small. The weak prey on reaction. They need it. They thrive on it. It reassures them that they still have power over you. And that's why they keep testing you, keep provoking you, keep waiting for you to prove yourself. Because the moment you do, they win. The moment you argue, explain, or try to justify your worth, you validate their opinion. You make their words matter. Now think about the strongest people you've ever met. Were they loud? Were they defensive? Or were they the ones who carried themselves with such quiet confidence that their presence alone commanded respect? Real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't seek validation. It simply exists, unshaken, undisturbed. A lion does not concern itself with the opinion of sheep. It doesn't need to. The sheep already know who holds the power. Look at life. The most admired, respected, and accomplished individuals were always the ones people tried to break. Marcus Aurelius was surrounded by backstabbers. Theodore Roosevelt was mocked relentlessly by his peers. Even in modern times, powerful leaders, athletes, and entrepreneurs are constantly scrutinized, not because they are weak, but because their presence exposes the weakness in others. And this doesn't just happen to men in power. It happens every day. In offices, in families, in friendships. Imagine a man in his late 50s working in a corporate office. Let's call him David. He's experienced, reliable, and well-respected. He doesn't engage in office politics. He minds his own business, does his job with precision, and leads by example. But there's a younger, insecure colleague, eager to climb the ladder, eager to be seen as the smartest man in the room. David doesn't challenge him. He doesn't argue. Yet somehow, this younger man sees David as a threat. So what does he do? He makes subtle digs in meetings. He interrupts David's ideas. He downplays his contributions. He tries to chip away at David's confidence, not because David is failing, but because he is competent, respected, and unwavering. And that is what threatens him most. This is how it works. First, they test you. They see if you'll flinch, if you'll react, if you'll feel the need to prove yourself. Because the moment you start explaining yourself, the moment you start defending yourself, they know they've gotten into your head. The weak feed off of reactions. They need to know they've unsettled you. They need to see that their words have weight. But what happens when you don't react? When you stay silent? Not out of fear, but out of complete disinterest. You take their power away. They don't expect you to be unshaken. They expect you to fight back, to argue, to get flustered. But when you respond with nothing, just cold, unwavering silence, it sends a message. I am not moved by you. Your words mean nothing here. Think of a lion. It doesn't roar to prove its dominance. It walks calmly with certainty. The pack follows. The jungle watches. The lion doesn't need to be loud because its presence alone demands respect. Now think of a small yapping dog, barking constantly, seeking attention, overcompensating for its size. That's the difference. Those who constantly seek to tear others down are the small yapping dogs of the world. Desperate to be seen, desperate to assert dominance where none exists. But the truly powerful, they don't bark, they move. So when someone tries to diminish you, what do? Do you argue, defend yourself, prove your worth? No. You stay unmoved. You hold your ground, not with words but with presence. You let them talk. Let them dig their own hole. Let them show their insecurity for what it is. And most importantly, you keep winning. You keep growing. You keep improving. You keep succeeding without explaining yourself. Because here's the truth. The moment you stop reacting, they realize they never had control over you in the first place. Let them talk. Let them try. Let karma do its job. You stay focused. You stay silent. And you keep rising. To the power of a cold stare. Silence is a weapon. But a stare, cold, unwavering, unshaken, is a declaration of dominance. There's something unsettling about it. No anger, no frustration, no need to respond. Just a piercing, unyielding gaze that strips away every ounce of false confidence in the person standing before you. It's a moment where power shifts without a word being spoken. The room feels it. The air grows thick. And suddenly, the person who once stood so sure of themselves begins to shrink. I witnessed it firsthand. There was a time when Kevin, a colleague of mine, was openly mocked during a meeting. It wasn't an outright insult. It was something more subtle, a condescending remark, coated with just enough humor to make it sound like a joke. The kind that makes the whole room chuckle awkwardly, unsure whether to laugh or stay silent. It was meant to undermine him, to make him feel small, to force him to react. Everyone expected Kevin to snap back, to defend himself, to prove he wasn't a fool. But he didn't. He just looked at the man who said it, not with anger, not with amusement, just pure, calculated stillness. A cold stare, no words, no movement, just presence. And that's when it happened. The confidence of the man who had just mocked him began to crack. First, it was a shift in his posture, then an awkward glance away. He tried to laugh it off, but his voice wavered. His joke had backfired. The room didn't laugh with him anymore. They saw what had really happened, who truly held control in that moment. That's the power of a cold stare. Most people believe control is about dominance, about being the loudest voice in the room, about having the last word. But real control, Stoic control, is about not needing any of that. It's about owning the space around you without needing validation. It's about making your presence known without a single wasted breath. This is why great leaders don't rush to speak. Why the most powerful men in the world don't explain themselves to fools. Because the moment you engage, the moment you defend, you acknowledge the challenge. You lower yourself to their level. But when you remain still, when you simply observe with that quiet, heavy presence, you force them to confront their own insecurities. And that is terrifying for them. A cold stare works because it does what words cannot. It makes them feel exposed, vulnerable, stripped of their false confidence. The person who mocks you expects retaliation. They expect you to react emotionally to prove them right. But when you don't, when you let silence hang in the air, it's their own words that destroy them. They realize, in real time, that they miscalculated. This is why those who practice emotional resilience never rush to respond. Why do men who master self-discipline not waste time explaining themselves? Because they understand the truth. Power doesn't need to prove itself. A lion does not respond to the barking of dogs. It simply exists, towering, unshaken, unbothered, and in doing so it commands more respect than any roar ever could. But let's be clear, this isn't about intimidation. It's not about playing games of dominance. It's about something much deeper. Self-mastery. Because the truth is, most people who try to belittle you don't actually hate you. They fear you. They fear the way you carry yourself. They fear your ability to stay calm under pressure. They fear that, deep down, you don't need their approval. That's what threatens them the most. Think back to the moments when someone tried to challenge you, when they spoke with arrogance, when they threw a subtle insult your way. Did they look as sure of themselves afterward? Or did they glance away? Did their tone shift? Did they fidget? That's the crack in their armor. That's the moment they realized they underestimated you. And you did nothing but look at them. Silence, paired with presence, is a tool. But silence, paired with a cold, unwavering gaze, is an execution. It's a reminder to them and to everyone else in the room that you are not easily moved. You don't argue. You don't chase validation. You don't need to explain your worth. You let them show their insecurity while you remain undisturbed. That's how you hold power without ever lifting a finger. That's how you win without speaking a word. 3. You define your worth. No one else decides your value. Not your boss, not your friends, not your family. But most people spend their lives waiting. Waiting for recognition, waiting for approval, waiting for someone to tell them they are good enough. And in that waiting, they surrender their power. Here's the truth. The moment you let someone else define your worth, you hand them control over you. If your confidence is based on external validation, then what happens when that validation is taken away? What happens when the compliments stop, when the approval fades? If your self-respect rises and falls with the opinions of others, then you will never truly own yourself. You will be a puppet, constantly adjusting, constantly seeking, never truly standing on your own. A man who understands his worth does not seek approval. He commands respect, not by asking for it, but by embodying it. I remember a man named Michael. He had spent over 20 years at his company. He worked hard, showed up early, stayed late. He was reliable, competent, respected by many. But one day, a new manager took over, a younger man, insecure, eager to prove himself. And in his need to assert dominance, he started undermining Michael. Meetings where Michael once had a voice became meetings where he was ignored. Projects he led were suddenly handed to others. Subtle, deliberate moves, not outright dismissal, but a quiet erosion of authority. And for a while, Michael played along. He tried harder. He waited for recognition. He believed that if he just kept proving himself, things would go back to the way they were. But they didn't. Because the moment he allowed someone else to determine his worth, he became powerless. Then one day, something shifted. He stopped trying. Not in the sense of giving up, but in the sense of no longer needing their approval. He did his job, but he didn't chase recognition. He spoke when necessary, but he didn't defend himself. He stopped explaining. He stopped seeking validation. And suddenly the power dynamic changed. His manager no longer had leverage. His silence became unsettling. His confidence became undeniable, not because it was loud, but because it was unshakable. This is the lesson. When you know your worth, you don't need to announce it. Weak men seek approval. Strong men define their own value. And the world adjusts accordingly. The more you chase recognition, the more you prove to the world that you do not believe in yourself. When you need to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be reassured, you tell the world that you are unsure. But when you stand firm, when you do not flinch, when you do not seek, the world begins to recognize you in ways that words never could. Look at history. Marcus Aurelius did not waste his time arguing with those who doubted him. He focused on his duty, on his discipline, on his inner strength. He understood that self-worth is an internal force, not something granted by others. That's why the Stoics practiced indifference to praise and criticism alike. They understood that neither truly mattered. The only thing that mattered was how you saw yourself. A man who lives for the opinions of others is a man who is never free. The moment you allow someone to define your worth, you give them the power to dictate your life. And that is the greatest weakness of all. So how do you apply this? First, stop explaining yourself. Every time you try to justify your worth to someone, you give them the authority to question it. A lion does not ask for permission to be a lion. It simply is. The ocean does not need validation to be vast. The mountain does not need applause to stand tall. Power is quiet. Confidence is silent. Only insecurity is loud. And when you stop explaining, when you stop giving others the chance to define you, you take back control. Second, stop chasing validation. If your confidence comes from applause, then it's not real confidence, it's dependency. And dependency is weakness. A man who needs approval is a man who can be controlled. The world can lift him up, and just as easily, the world can tear him down. True confidence does not come from what others say. It comes from knowing who you are, knowing what you stand for, and never compromising that for the sake of acceptance. Third, walk away from people who diminish you. If someone constantly makes you feel small, they are not worth your presence. A strong man does not waste time trying to convince others of his value. He removes himself from places where he is not valued. And when he does, he makes it clear, without a word, that his worth is non-negotiable. People will treat you how you allow them to treat you. If you tolerate disrespect, if you accept being overlooked, then you have silently agreed to being seen as less. But when you refuse to lower yourself, when you walk away without hesitation, you set a standard. And that standard speaks louder than any argument ever could. Finally, embody your worth. Show it through action, through discipline, through an unshakable presence that does not beg for recognition but commands respect through sheer existence. Because at the end of the day, the world treats you the way you treat yourself. If you act like a man who knows his value, the world will respond accordingly. If you hesitate, if you doubt, if you seek permission to be confident, then you will always be at the mercy of others. There will always be people who try to define you. Some will underestimate you. Some will try to control you. Some will want to keep you small so they can feel bigger. But none of them matter. You define your worth. You decide your value. No one else. So stop waiting. Stop seeking. Stop explaining. And start becoming. 4. Let success speak. There is nothing more powerful than silence backed by results. The world is full of noise. People arguing, proving, justifying, demanding recognition. They believe that the louder they speak, the more they will be heard. But power does not scream. Power does not beg for attention. True power is felt, not explained. It does not seek approval. It does not ask for permission. It simply exists. Weak men argue. Strong men act. The insecure fight for validation. The unshakable build without seeking applause. There is no greater response to doubt, to insults, to underestimation than success itself. Not words, not explanations, not retaliation, only results. Because when you win, when you rise, when you stand tall in undeniable achievement, the world is forced to acknowledge what you always knew. You do not need to convince them. You do not need to debate. You do not need to prove your worth in words. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them laugh. Let them dismiss you. Their opinions are irrelevant. They hold no weight. A lion does not explain why it is a lion. It does not need to. A storm does not announce its arrival. It moves and the world adjusts. Success silences everything. It makes every argument meaningless, every insult powerless, every doubt irrelevant. Those who once mocked you will be the first to pretend they always believed in you. Those who dismissed you will rewrite history, acting as if they never questioned you. And those who envied you will be the first to say they knew you would make it. That is the way of the world. That is the nature of people. But here's what separates the powerful from the weak. The powerful never seek this validation in the first place. They do not chase recognition. They do not work for applause. They do not depend on the approval of those who once doubted them. Because they understand something the weak do not. Recognition is a side effect, not the goal. The moment you focus on proving others wrong, you have already lost. The moment you seek revenge through success, you remain bound to their opinions. Because true power does not care. True power moves forward, regardless of who is watching, regardless of who approves. It is not reactionary. It is not built on proving anything to anyone. It is built on an unshakable belief in oneself. The world tests you. It doubts you. It underestimates you. And in those moments, you have a choice. Waste your energy explaining yourself, or redirect it into action. One path leaves you frustrated, seeking validation that will never come. The other path makes their opinions obsolete. The Stoics understood this. They did not argue. They did not seek approval. They lived, they acted, they built. Their legacy was written not in words, but in results. They did not waste time defending themselves. They did not lower themselves to debates with fools. They focused only on what they could control: their actions, their discipline, their inner strength. That is the way of the powerful. That is the way of those who win. The man who argues for his worth will always remain beneath the man who proves it through action. The man who needs to be seen will always be smaller than the man who makes his presence undeniable. When you focus on words, on explanations, on trying to justify yourself, you play their game. You let their doubts define you. You let their voices control your next move. But when you focus only on your own path, on your own growth, on your own discipline, you strip them of that power. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them misunderstand you. You owe no explanations. You owe no justifications. You owe them nothing. Because every second spent proving yourself to others is a second stolen from the life you are building. Power does not announce itself. A man who carries real strength does not need to remind others of it. The weight of his presence is enough. He does not seek recognition because he understands that the results will speak for themselves. When you walk with purpose, the world feels it. When you move with certainty, the world takes notice. Not because you demand it, but because it cannot be ignored. And that is the secret. The moment you stop looking for recognition is the moment you truly become powerful. The moment you stop trying to prove yourself is the moment you begin to rise. It will not happen overnight. The world will resist. People will doubt you. They will question you. They will try to pull you back down to their level. They will demand explanations. They will want to know why you are so certain, so unshaken, so unaffected. But do not explain. Do not waste time justifying your path. Keep building, keep moving, keep growing, and soon those who doubted will see for themselves. They will realize that their words had no effect, that their insults meant nothing, that their attempts to belittle you were wasted energy, and by the time they see the truth, it will be too late for them to stop it. The greatest revenge is not anger. It is not proving them wrong with words. It is not fighting back on their level. The greatest revenge is complete and undeniable success, the kind that leaves no room for argument, the kind that makes every insult, every doubt, every attempt to break you seem ridiculous in hindsight, the kind that renders their words meaningless, the kind that speaks for itself. So let them talk, let them mock, let them doubt. None of it matters. The only thing that matters is what you build. The only thing that matters is what you become. And when the dust settles, when the noise fades, when the doubters have nothing left to say, you will stand where you were always meant to be, silent, unshaken, unstoppable. Fuel growth with doubt. Doubt is a strange thing. It can break a man, or it can build him into something unstoppable. Most people fear it. They let it paralyze them. They take every criticism, every rejection, every dismissive look as proof that they are not enough. But a man who understands power, a man who understands himself, knows that doubt is fuel. Doubt is energy. Doubt is fire. And when used correctly, it becomes the very thing that forges a man into something indestructible. I knew someone like that. His name was Daniel. He worked as a technician in a company where he had been overlooked for years. He wasn't the loudest in the room. He wasn't the one who bragged about his work, but he was sharp, reliable, and disciplined. Yet every time a promotion came up, it went to someone else. Younger men with more charm, but less skill. Men who talked big, but delivered little. And every time Daniel was told the same thing. You're good, but you're not leadership material. You don't have the presence, you don't have the charisma. Maybe you should stay in your role. Most men would have accepted it. They would have started believing it, started shrinking, started playing small. But not Daniel. He didn't argue. He didn't beg for a chance. He didn't try to convince anyone they were wrong. He simply let their doubt fuel him. Instead of being bitter, he became better. Instead of being resentful, he became relentless. He sharpened his skills, learned more than what his job required, became the man who could run the company if necessary. He used their underestimation as motivation. And then, one day, the company faced a crisis, a major failure in the system. The people in charge, those who were given the promotions, the ones who were chosen over him, panicked. They didn't know what to do. And while they scrambled, Daniel stepped forward, calm, focused, unshaken. He fixed the problem before they even understood what had happened. And suddenly, the same people who had doubted him, ignored him, dismissed him, were now looking to him for guidance. Because when the moment of truth arrived, they realized something. Daniel didn't need their belief. He had already built himself into the man they now depended on. That's how doubt works. It will either destroy you or shape you, but you decide which one it will be. Most people let it break them. They take rejection as confirmation that they should stop. They take failure as proof that they are unworthy. But a man who understands his power takes every doubt and turns it into fuel. Every insult becomes a reason to sharpen his mind. Every dismissal becomes a reason to strengthen his will. Every setback becomes a reason to rise higher. The Stoics understood this. They knew that adversity reveals character, that the men who are forged in fire are the ones who emerge unbreakable. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal from his closest allies. Epictetus was born a slave, beaten and left for dead. But they did not crumble. They did not break. They used their suffering. They let every doubt, every challenge, every hardship shape them into something greater. Because that is what a warrior does. He does not run from hardship. He embraces it. He welcomes the resistance because he knows that without it, he will never grow strong. And this is what most people will never understand. They think that the road to success is smooth, that if they are truly meant for something, the path will be easy. But the truth is the opposite. If your path is difficult, it means you are walking the road of the strong. If people doubt you, it means you are on the verge of something great. If you are facing resistance, it means you're building power. So what do? When they doubt you, when they laugh, when they tell you you're not good enough? You do what Daniel did. You say nothing. You don't explain. You don't argue. You don't try to convince them. Instead, you work. You sharpen yourself. You grow in silence. You become the man they cannot ignore. Because here's the truth. When you become undeniable, their opinions become irrelevant. They can doubt you now. They can dismiss you. They can pretend you don't exist. But the day will come when they will see what you have become. And by then, it will be too late. Because you will not need them anymore. You will not need their validation. You will have built something far greater, an unshakable version of yourself. So let them doubt, let them talk, let them believe you are nothing. And while they waste their breath, you build, you rise, you become. 6. Their limits aren't yours. Most people don't see the world as it is. They see it as they are, through their fears, their failures, their doubts. And when they tell you something is impossible, they are not talking about you. They are talking about themselves. It happens every day. Someone tries to rise, to build something greater, to break the cycle, and the voices begin. That's too risky. You don't have what it takes. People like us don't succeed. Just be realistic. But whose reality are they talking about? Theirs, not yours. I knew a man named Chris. He grew up in a family where no one had ever built anything for themselves. Every man before him had worked the same jobs, lived in the same town, followed the same script, and every time someone had a dream, the same voices echoed. That's not for people like us. So when Chris told his family he was going to start his own business, the reaction was predictable. They told him he was crazy, that it was too risky, that he should be grateful for stability. But here's the thing. None of them had ever tried. None of them had ever pushed beyond what they had been given. Their limits had nothing to do with Chris, but they wanted them to. Because when someone steps beyond the boundaries others have accepted, it forces them to confront their own inaction. It shines a light on their fears. And instead of rising, instead of pushing themselves, most people try to pull you back down. Not out of malice, but because your growth threatens their comfort. Chris didn't argue. He didn't explain. He didn't try to make them believe. He simply moved forward. He worked, he built, he made mistakes, and he learned. And years later, when he had done exactly what they said was impossible, something interesting happened. They changed their tune. The same people who once doubted him were now asking for advice. The same voices that tried to hold him back were now silent in his presence. Because success makes their opinions irrelevant. This is the truth. Most people project their own limits onto you. They are not trying to hurt you. They are trying to keep themselves comfortable. They tell you to stay small because it reassures them that their smallness is justified. They tell you not to take risks because they never had the courage to. They tell you something is impossible because they were never willing to do what it took. And if you listen to them, if you accept their fears as your own, you will live their life, not yours. The Stoics understood this well. They knew that the opinions of others were nothing but reflections of their own reality. That the only limits that mattered were the ones they chose to accept. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire surrounded by men who doubted him, questioned him, betrayed him. But he never let their fears become his. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Strength comes from knowing that what others believe has nothing to do with you. The world will tell you what you can and cannot do. Society will hand you a script and expect you to follow it, but you are not obligated to accept it. The moment you reject their limits, you become something they don't understand, free. So, what do you do when they doubt you? When they tell you your dreams are unrealistic? When they try to keep you in a box that was never meant for you? You say nothing. You move in silence. You let them stay where they are while you rise. You don't waste time convincing people who have already decided their own fate. You focus on your own path, your own growth, your own discipline. And one day, when they see what you have built, when they realize they were wrong, it won't matter. Because by then, you will have already moved far beyond them. The only limits that exist are the ones you accept. Choose wisely. 7. Silence is your weapon. Silence unsettles people. It makes them uncomfortable. It forces them to confront themselves. The weak despise silence because it exposes their insecurity. The strong embrace is because it magnifies their power. Most people believe that control comes from being the loudest voice in the room. They think that to win, they must argue, explain, demand to be heard. But the truth is, control belongs to the one who speaks the least and observes the most. The one who does not react, who does not engage, who does not waste energy proving a point. A man who masters silence is a man who cannot be controlled. Words are weapons, but silence is warfare. When you speak, you reveal your position. When you react, you expose your emotions. But when you remain silent, you force the world to guess. You strip them of certainty. You take away their ability to manipulate you. Silence creates tension, and tension creates power. When someone insults you, they expect a reaction. When someone doubts you, they expect an explanation. When someone tries to provoke you, they expect engagement. But when you do nothing, when you give them nothing, you disrupt the game entirely. They lose their footing, they lose their confidence, and in that moment, you hold control. Most people fear being misunderstood. They rush to correct every false narrative, to defend their name, to make sure people see them as they want to be seen. But a man who understands power knows that perception is irrelevant, that truth does not need defending, that those who know, and those who don't, never mattered to begin with. Look at the most powerful men in history. The generals, the kings, the strategists. They did not waste their breath explaining themselves to fools. They did not react to every insult. They moved in silence, they built in the shadows, and when they struck, it was too late for anyone to stop them. This is why silence is feared. It is unpredictable. It cannot be controlled. It makes people uncomfortable because it forces them to fill in the gaps. And in that uncertainty, they project their own fears, their own insecurities, their own weakness. That is the advantage of the silent man. He lets others reveal themselves while he remains unseen. But silence is not just about withholding words. It is about presence. It is about how you carry yourself, how you walk into a room, how you hold yourself in a conversation. The man who is comfortable in silence is the man who does not seek approval. And when you do not seek approval, you are free. Freedom is power. It means you are not bound by the need to explain yourself. It means you are not controlled by the emotions of others. It means you do not react just because someone demands a reaction. And that terrifies people, because most people are slaves to validation. They need to be liked, they need to be acknowledged, they need their voices heard. And when they meet someone who does not need these things, someone who is completely at peace in his own silence, they panic. They don't know how to handle it. They don't know what to do with a man who does not flinch, who does not argue, who does not give them the reaction they crave. This is how silence wins. This is how silence dominates. It turns their own energy against them. It lets them exhaust themselves while you remain steady. It keeps you in control while they lose theirs. When you use silence as a weapon, you become untouchable. You do not need to defend yourself because your results will do that for you. You do not need to argue because your presence alone commands respect. You do not need to explain because those who matter will understand, and those who don't were never worth your time. The world belongs to the man who does not waste his breath, to the man who lets his actions speak louder than words, to the man who knows that true power is not found in volume, but in presence. So let them talk, let them question, let them try to provoke you. None of it matters. Stay silent, stay composed, and let them destroy themselves. 8. You need no approval. Most people live their lives waiting for permission. They wait for someone to tell them they are good enough. They hesitate, looking for approval before they take action. And in doing so, they chain themselves to the expectations of others. A man who needs approval is a man who can be controlled. He moves only when others say he should. He stops when they disapprove. He bends when they criticize. He becomes a puppet, his strings pulled by the opinions of those who have no authority over his life. I saw this firsthand with my brother. For years he did everything right. He followed the rules, he got the degree, he got the job, he made decisions based on what would be acceptable to those around him. And for a while it worked. People praised him. They told him he was on the right path. They approved. But then something changed. He started to question. He wanted more. He wanted to take risks, to build something of his own, to create a life that was his, not just a reflection of what others expected. And that's when the approval stopped. Suddenly, the same people who once encouraged him began to doubt him. They told him he was being reckless, that he was making a mistake, that he should just be grateful for what he had. They weren't concerned about him failing. They were concerned about him stepping beyond them. His growth made them uncomfortable. His independence threatened their sense of control. That's how it works. As long as you stay inside the lines, they applaud. As long as you follow the script, they accept you. But the moment you step outside, the moment you take control of your own life, they resist. They question, they criticize. And this is where most people break. They let the doubt sink in. They stop themselves before they even begin. They give up their power in exchange for the false comfort of approval. But my brother didn't. He walked away from their validation. He stopped explaining, stopped seeking reassurance, stopped waiting for permission. He started making decisions for himself, without hesitation, without justification. And the moment he did that, everything changed. Because something happens when you stop needing approval. People don't understand you, they question you, they doubt you, but beneath that something else happens. They respect you. They may not say it, they may never admit it, but deep down, they know. They see the difference between a man who moves on his own terms and a man who waits for permission. They recognize, even if they will never say it, that the man who needs nothing from them is the man who holds true power. This is what the Stoics knew. They understood that freedom begins the moment you stop needing validation. That a man who follows his own path is the only man who is truly alive. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own." And that is the tragedy of most men. They know what they want, they feel it in their gut, but they ignore it because they are afraid. Afraid of judgment, afraid of rejection, afraid of standing alone. But here's the truth. The only real failure is living a life controlled by others. The only real mistake is waiting for a permission that will never come. A lion does not ask to be a lion. It simply is. A storm does not seek approval before it moves. It moves. A man who understands his worth does not need applause to validate his choices. He makes them. So stop waiting. Stop explaining. Stop looking for approval that does nothing but weaken you. You do not need it. You never did. Life will test you. People will doubt you. Some will try to make you feel small. Others will seek to control you. But in the end, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is how you respond. You have seen the power of silence, the strength of stillness, the unshakable force of a man who does not need approval. This is not just philosophy. It is a skill, a discipline, a way of life. And like any skill, it must be practiced. Every time someone tries to provoke you, resist the urge to react. Every time doubt creeps in, remind yourself that it is fuel, not a barrier. Every time someone projects their limits onto you, refuse to accept them as your own. Choose presence over words, control over emotion, strength over validation. Because power does not belong to the loudest man in the room. It belongs to the one who does not flinch, the one who moves with purpose, the one who lets his results, his discipline, his silence speak for him. So now, the question is yours to answer. How will you use this? How will you apply this in your own life? Share your story below. Your journey may be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.